What if I told you that your absolute best-selling product, like the one generating the most daily revenue right now, is actually a ticking time bomb?
Oh, that is a terrifying scenario for any business leader.
Right. Because it's just slowly destroying your business from the inside out. You look at the spreadsheet, you see the top line numbers going up, and you think, everything is perfect.
Because we all have this deep-seated desire for data to be just a simple arithmetic problem.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to hit auto sum at the bottom of the column, and boom, a clean strategy pops out.
But real diagnostic data is almost never that cooperative.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
So welcome to our deep dive. Today we're looking at the Insight Forge sales data set, and we're going to show you why the numbers you usually celebrate might actually be the ones you should fear the most.
Yeah, we have a very clear mission for you today. We need to extract actionable intelligence from a remarkably dense set of information.
Dense is an understatement. I mean, we are looking at 2,500 daily sales records, and this spans from 2022 all the way out to a projected 2028.
Right. And we are tracking $1.38 million in total revenue.
Flowing across 4 different products and 4 distinct geographic regions.
The sheer scope of it is phenomenal. You're dealing with daily averages, regional breakdowns, temporal trends.
Demographic profiles.
Exactly. All of it. And my role today, functioning as your lead data analyst, is to help you see the mechanisms beneath those raw numbers.
Which is crucial.
Right. Because we need to explain not just what is happening, but why it is happening. We need to connect these daily averages to the big picture business strategy.
And from my perspective, I am looking at this entirely through the lens of a sales director.
So you're focused on the bottom line.
100%.
Right.
I care about driving that $1.38 million revenue engine forward,
Mhm.
optimizing our strategy, and, well, most importantly, not crashing the machine into a wall.
Which is very easy to do if you misread the data.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, let's unpack this. To understand how this business operates, we have to isolate the moving parts first.
Right. We need a baseline.
Yeah, we need to identify our primary growth engines and, honestly, the dead weight holding us back.
Well, we can establish that clear baseline right away across all 2,500 records. The overall average daily sales sit at $553.
Okay, 553.
Yeah. Think of that number as your waterline. If a product or region is generating above 553 a day, it's keeping the ship afloat.
And if it drops below that line, it's dragging you underwater.
Exactly, forcing your other assets to compensate.
Well, looking at the board, the data highlights a massive disparity immediately. We have a clear revenue driver here, which is Widget A.
Oh, Widget A is a powerhouse.
It really is. It pulls in an average of $572 a day, so comfortably above our waterline. And on its own, it has generated $0.38 million in total revenue.
But the interesting part is when you look at Widget A, specifically in the West region,
Oh, it goes completely off the charts. It hits an absolute peak of $607 a day.
which is a statistical outlier in terms of pure volume. It's basically doing the heavy lifting for the entire data set.
The star quarterback carrying the whole team.
Right. But the polarity in this data is extreme. Because if you look at the other end of the spectrum,
You find the bench warmer.
yes, you find Widget D.
Widget D is our lowest performer across the board, coming in at just $534 a day.
And it gets worse.
It does. When you isolate Widget D in the East region, it bottoms out entirely at a staggering $522 a day.
Right.
So, okay, putting my sales director hat on, viewing this purely as a revenue problem, my instinct is aggressive.
You want to cut it.
Immediately. Why are we pouring marketing budget and valuable shelf space into Widget D in the East? Let's just ruthlessly cut it.
It's a very common reaction.
I mean, we take all those operational resources, we pivot, and we double down entirely on Widget A's dominance in the West. We're already making 607 a day there. Feed the winner, starve the loser.
Right. That is the instinctual pivot for an executive to make. It feels decisive.
Because it is.
But as an analyst, I have to step in and stop you from making that cut.
Wait, really? Why?
Well, what's fascinating here is that before you take an axe to Widget D in the East, you have to understand the mechanics of why it's failing.
Okay.
Are you dealing with a fundamentally flawed product, or are you dealing with a systemic mismatch in the regional sales approach?
A mismatch. But, like, if the product isn't selling, it isn't selling. Why does the mechanism matter if the result is just a loss?
Because if you cut the product without understanding the failure, you will just repeat the exact same mistake with the next product you put on that shelf.
Okay, that makes sense.
Look at the regional data as a whole. The East region is our lowest performing territory overall, sitting at an average of just $544 a day.
So it's below the waterline.
Right. It's not just Widget D that's struggling. The entire East region is moving sluggishly compared to the West.
Oh, I see.
So if you just eliminate the product, you are treating a symptom. It's like looking at a restaurant's menu where one signature dish is subsidizing the kitchen, while another dish is actively costing you money in spoiled ingredients.
You don't just take the bad dish off the menu.
Exactly. You have to ask if your kitchen is even capable of cooking it properly, or if your local patrons even want that type of food.
Okay, so if we suspect the East region has a fundamental strategy problem that forces us to look closer at the West region,
It does.
because if the West is our gold standard, maybe we just copy their strategy, right?
Right.
But looking at these numbers, I wouldn't want to copy the West region at all.
No, you really wouldn't.
The data throws this massive counterintuitive paradox right into the middle of the whole strategy. Here's where it gets really interesting for the listener.
It's the defining contradiction of the Insight Forge dataset, and it completely undermines that whole feed the winner mentality you had earlier.
Imagine you're looking at this performance board. The West region is generating your highest average sales at $561 a day.
The ultimate cash cow.
Right. They look like your absolute best territory. But their customer satisfaction rate is a dismal 2.96 out of 5.
Which is the lowest satisfaction score of all 4 regions.
Right. It's terrible. Meanwhile, the East region, the territory producing the lowest daily revenue, the one I just wanted to gut completely.
They have the highest customer satisfaction.
Yes. An absolute high of 3.07 out of 5.
And the paradox becomes even more severe when you drill down into your specific flagship combination.
You mean Widget A in the West.
Exactly. You wanted to pour all of your resources into Widget A in the West region because it generates $607 a day.
Yeah, the star quarterback.
But the data reveals that that specific combination carries a shockingly poor satisfaction score of 2.94 out of 5.
Are we just burning out our customers in the West? Because, I mean, a 2.94 out of 5 isn't just room for improvement.
No, it's not.
That is active resentment. It feels exactly like a high-pressure used car salesman operation.
Oh, it's a great analogy.
You walk onto the lot, the salesperson corners you. They use every aggressive trick in the book to force the close. And sure, they get the signature today.
The daily revenue spikes to 607.
Right. But as you drive that car off the lot, the buyer's remorse sets in. You feel cheated, you leave a terrible review, and you swear you will never come back.
What you're describing is the functional difference between a transaction and a relationship.
Well, yeah.
This raises an important question analytically. It exposes why top-line revenue is a deeply deceptive metric if you isolate it from customer sentiment.
Because it's a house of cards.
Exactly. A 2.94 satisfaction score indicates a high-churn environment. You are acquiring customers, extracting their capital, and immediately alienating them.
And mathematically, you eventually run out of fresh targets.
You do.
You can't sustain a business if your customer lifetime value is exactly one single miserable purchase.
Precisely. High churn rates act like a slow, catastrophic leak in your revenue engine. The West region looks like a powerhouse on paper today, but that volume is entirely unsustainable.
It's going to crash.
To maintain $607 a day with no repeat customers, your acquisition costs will eventually skyrocket as you're forced to market to increasingly distant and skeptical buyers.
Conversely, the East region is moving slower at 544 a day. But that 3.07 satisfaction score means they're actually building a base.
Yes, they are generating repeat buyers. They have a sustainable ecosystem.
So if our aggressive tactics are actively alienating our West Coast buyers, we clearly don't understand who we are actually talking to.
We are pitching to the wrong persona.
Right. If we want to fix this relationship and stop the churn, we urgently need to know exactly who is holding the purse strings. Let's look at the demographic data.
When we pivot to the demographics, the data set defies traditional expectations yet again.
Go figure.
If you pull the high-level summary, the mathematics state that your average customer age across all 2,500 records is 43.3 years old.
Right, which paints a very specific picture.
Hmm.
When you say the target market is 43, I am visualizing middle-aged professionals.
Sure.
People established in their careers, likely with a decent amount of disposable income, looking for, reliable premium products.
That is the logical assumption based on the mathematical average. But when we actually break down the spending power by specific age brackets, specifically for our powerhouse product, Widget A, the 43-year-olds are absolutely not driving the volume.
They aren't even close. And this is the part of the data that completely shocked me.
It is surprising.
The absolute highest daily sales for Widget A come from the tens age bracket.
The tens.
We are talking about teenagers and kids. They are pulling in $627 a day for this product.
Yep.
And right behind them, the second highest volume comes from the 30s age bracket, bringing in $603 a day.
It's a massive split.
Wait, really? The tens? What exactly is Widget A? Is it like the latest viral TikTok gadget?
It very well could be.
Because as a sales director, how do I adapt my marketing when my top buyers are literal kids and 30-somethings, but my quote-unquote average customer is supposedly 43?
This is where you have to move beyond just reading the data and start synthesizing the context. You are looking at a very distinct dual peak demographic.
Right, the two spikes.
You have a massive volume spike in the tens and another massive spike in the 30s. What is the causal mechanism that inherently links a 14-year-old and a 36-year-old?
Oh, wow. It's a family dynamic. You're looking at parents and their teenagers.
Consider the mechanics of that transaction. It's highly unlikely that teenagers in the tens bracket are organically funding a $627 daily average purely out of their own allowances or, part-time jobs.
No, definitely not.
What you're observing is the concept of a purchasing agent versus an end user.
The parents of the agents.
Exactly. The 30-somethings might be buying Widget A for themselves, sure, but they are absolutely buying it for the teenagers in their household.
So the teenagers drive the cultural demand, but the 30-something parents hold the purse strings and actually execute the transaction.
Precisely. And the data set adds another layer to this. It shows that female customers have a slight but distinct edge over male customers.
Oh, really?
Yes. They drive 50.2% of the transactions, and they generate a higher daily average overall, $559 compared to $548 for males.
Which perfectly validates the family purchasing hypothesis.
It does.
If mothers in their 30s are primarily acting as the household purchasing agents for a highly desired gadget aimed at teenagers, your entire approach to sales and customer service has to pivot to accommodate that specific dynamic.
Exactly. Now, apply this directly to the West region's failure.
Oh, man. If our sales teams out West are using hyper-aggressive, high-pressure closing tactics on mothers who are just trying to navigate a purchase for their kids,
Of course, the satisfaction score is plunging to a 2.94.
it is a complete behavioral mismatch. You're treating a family purchasing agent like a corporate procurement officer, and they resent you for it.
It also perfectly explains your dilemma with Widget D in the East region.
Wait, how so?
Earlier, you wanted to cut Widget D because it was failing in a territory with high customer satisfaction.
Right, the East.
Let's connect the dots. The East region has a high satisfaction score of 3.07, meaning their salespeople are likely very good at serving this exact demographic of 30-something parents.
Okay, I follow.
But what if Widget D is fundamentally designed for that mathematical average 43-year-old professional?
Oh, the East region strategy isn't broken.
No, they just have a product sitting on the shelf that doesn't appeal to the highly satisfied, family-oriented demographic actually walking through their doors.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. The mechanism of the failure isn't the product itself, but who it's being presented to.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know our star product is Widget A. We know our West region is burning bridges and generating churn. And we know our true buyer persona is a dual peak demographic of 30-something mothers and their teenagers.
I have the whole picture.
Almost. Now we need to look at the calendar. We need to project this forward and build a forward-looking strategy to survive what's coming.
Well, the temporal data in the InsightForge dataset offers a very clear, though somewhat volatile trajectory.
Volatile how?
Analyzing the annual trends, we see a pattern of significant dips. The volume in 2024 dropped, and the projections for 2027 show another contraction.
Okay, so we dip in 2024 and 2027.
Right. But the forecast for 2028 completely shatters the scale.
It really does. After the 2027 contraction, the data projects this massive, unprecedented growth spike in 2028.
Rocketing overall averages up to $581 a day.
Which is massive.
It is. Furthermore, looking at the quarterly trends, Q4 consistently shows higher sales driven by seasonal demand.
So what does this all mean? How do we, as a sales director, capitalize on this looming 2028 spike and the reliable Q4 seasonal rush? I mean, what is the definitive playbook here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, synthesizing all the data into a cohesive strategy recommendation.
Yeah.
The company must leverage the Q4 seasonal demand to launch targeted, dual-pronged marketing campaigns aimed squarely at female buyers in the 10s and 30s demographics.
Stop spending money targeting the 43-year-old.
Exactly. But crucially, you must resolve the aggressive sales tactics in the West before the 2028 volume spike hits.
Right. Because if we push a massive 2028 volume spike through a territory that's actively alienating people, we are going to have a disaster on our hands.
The customer service infrastructure will collapse under the weight of unhappy buyers.
So we have to fix that West Coast culture immediately.
Otherwise, that 2028 revenue spike will just be a temporary sugar high followed by a catastrophic crash. You cannot scale a broken relationship.
That right there is the entire value of this exercise. Treating data like a story, merging the sales director's drive for revenue with the data analyst's eye for context.
It transforms a simple spreadsheet into a roadmap for business survival.
It really does. You can't just look at a $1.38 million top-line revenue number and pop champagne. You have to interrogate the mechanisms beneath it.
And speaking of those mechanisms, I want to leave the listener with one final unresolved paradox from this data set to mull over on their own.
Oh, lay it on us. What do we miss?
The data states the average customer age is 43.3 years old. Mathematically undeniable.
Right.
Yet the 40s age bracket has the absolute lowest overall daily average sales of any age group.
Wait, really?
Yes, generating just $532 a day. And it drops to a catastrophic $504 a day for Widget C.
The exact dead center of our demographic average is actively our worst performing segment.
It is. I invite you to ponder. Why is the exact average customer demographic actually your worst performing segment?
Wow.
It is a final reminder that in data, average rarely means optimal.
It proves that looking for the easy, clean answer is always a trap. The insights that will actually save your business are always hiding in the contradictions. Until next time, keep looking beneath the surface.